for joining us for another journey beyond 2000. All that later. But first, the most exciting and expensive motorbike on the road.
Honda's Tochigi Test Track, a proving ground for some of the world's most influential motoring designs. And today is special. Taking the track is one of Honda's most spectacular and unusual machines, with a mystique all of its own. The NR750, said to be the most sophisticated motorbike ever produced for the commercial market. With only 1,000 machines on offer and a price tag of $80,000 each, it's also one of the most exclusive and definitely the most expensive.
This is not just some beautiful machine. The Honda NR750 is the product of 14 years of research and development. More money was spent on creating the perfect engineering design with this bike than on any other bike in Honda's history. Why? Because Honda have taken up an extraordinary challenge. The engine that makes this bike potentially the fastest thing on two wheels today represents an evolutionary stepping stone towards a new era in motoring technology.
The giant leap that Honda took those 14 years ago was to change the elemental design of the internal combustion engine.
Ever since the combustion engine was invented, this is what pistons have looked like. A connecting rod attached to a round piston head. Now, whatever sort of vehicle you're used to driving, whether it's got 4 cylinders or 12 cylinders, the pistons pushing it along are built to the same design.
The piston's capacity to suck in the fuel mixture through the valves and expel the exhaust is the key to a 4-stroke engine's efficiency. And it's here that circular pistons have their limitations. A limitation that's existed for the last 100 years and confounded any attempt to solve it. Until now.
In a really elegant piece of lateral thinking, the engineers here at Honda have replaced 2 circular pistons with a single oval piston. By doing away with the 2 cylinder walls in the center here, they've reduced the surface area and the friction by a dramatic 25%. Now, if you look at this oval piston here, you can see it's got 2 spark plugs and 8 valves. The added gain of removing the 2 cylinder walls in the middle here is that it gives the valves, especially the 4 in the center, much more room to operate in. That means they can allow in larger quantities of the air-fuel mixture, generating greater power. And they can also expel the exhaust gases much more efficiently. Effectively, it's a bit like being able to breathe through your mouth instead of through a stuffy nose. Because of the economical shape of the oval piston design, it's now technically feasible to install 4 cylinders where previously you could only put 2. Now, the implications of that for the future of the combustion engine are truly remarkable.
As with many motoring developments, the racetrack was the test bed. The goal was to achieve the supposedly impossible, to produce a 4-stroke powered motorbike capable of beating the 2 strokes which dominated world racing. The trick would be to make the pistons move a lot faster and with greater efficiency, aims which they achieved. But still, the bike failed to place first. Honda believes that's due to the extra weight of the NR750 and the rider's inability to adjust to the differences in its handling. The industry judged it an expensive white elephant. But it's just possible that for the company, the bike was a red herring. The engine performance data and design information they gathered could see them ultimate winners, not on motorbikes, but in cars. With some 400 million cars worldwide running on 4-stroke engines, the impact of a smaller, lighter, more efficient engine that was also more powerful would be sensational. But back on the track, my mind was fixed firmly on 2 wheels. They call it a street machine, but to me, it feels like I'm strapped to the back of a rocket. Having said that, it's very, very forgiving to the casual rider like myself. It's a beautiful ride, very smooth, The four-stroke engine gives it a wonderful capacity to move through the gears with a minimum amount of fuss, even if you don't get the timing right. And unlike the two-strokes, where there tend to be power surges at certain points of acceleration, the NR750's electronically controlled four-stroke delivers the power evenly, up to top speeds of around 270 kilometres an hour, something I left up to Honda's test rider to demonstrate. Ironically, it's this smooth application of power and the lack of the normal roar of a two-stroke that has disappointed some in the motorbike fraternity, who've labelled it a sterile experience. But I doubt any of the owners of the bike will be complaining. From the carbon-reinforced fairing, titanium engine parts, and special surface coatings to reduce friction even more, each part has been specifically designed to enhance performance. Honda, at peak production, will be hand-assembling only 3 a day. Yes, it's a bike with a limited production lifespan, but it would be a mistake to forget just what's important here: the engine and the oval pistons that put it in a class of its own.
Still to come, the Smart Highway. Linking your car by satellite to everything you want to know. But after the break, the biotelemetric egg. Good news for the white-naped crane.
Balloons have traditionally been associated with festive events. But the hundreds of millions of rubber balloons that we launch into the sky each year don't just disappear. Eventually, they return to Earth and take some time to biodegrade. This can cause environmental problems, particularly to marine life.
Balloons for sale. Half-price balloons for sale.
Growing environmental concerns in Japan led to deflating balloon sales, prompting a Japanese company to come up with a water-soluble version. So these balloons are made from polyvinyl alcohol instead of rubber and are coloured with harmless food additives. After about 10 seconds in contact with water, the balloons break up, posing no threat to the environment. So I guess these balloons are perfect for a day like this. But what happens if it rains?
Ever wondered how hot an Asian water monitor gets? How about this endangered native Asian cow, the gaur? When will it ovulate? How can you perfect the artificial hatching of rare and threatened birds? All these questions and more are finding answers at the New York Zoological Society's Bronx Zoo. The key turns out to be biotelemetry, measuring biological information at a distance, remotely keeping track of whatever parameters in the living animal are of interest. By fusing new technologies, though, a big telemetric opportunity is now opening. This fish meal conceals a mini temperature sensor that will report from the lizard's stomach. Similarly, the ovulation of this gaur will be plotted from the temperature sensor installed in her vagina.
The advances in telemetry with the increasing technology of video technology, computer technology, and new electronic sensors, and the fact that the telemetry is smaller, we're able to get new kinds of information that we weren't able to before in a more reliable way and also in a more complete way.
Meet Maxine. 20 years a New York resident, she's a 38-year-old Asian elephant, mother of none. Maxine's modelling this year's look in a leather and silicon chip-studded collar supporting a satellite transmitter. Developing and fitting this instrumentation on the zoo model laid the groundwork for applying the technology to wildlife conservation.
because we know nothing about their biology, we don't know how to conserve them, we don't know how to protect them. How big do you need to make a park to save African forest elephants? We need some basic biological information so that we can transpose that into conservation action to help save the species, an endangered species.
This is Cameroon, West Africa. Somewhere out there is Isabel, a wild, young 9-year-old female African forest elephant. She's wearing a collar, just like this one. And with a bit of luck, without even leaving New York, we'll know if she's alive or dead, and where exactly in the Cameroon she's wandered. Those NOAA weather satellites are in position, so we'll try and track that signal. How are we going?
9105. Okay, this is quite exciting. We have an elephant in Cameroon. This is back on the 4th, and we got sensor information twice, and we know the elephant's alive, so we can rest easy.
But most exciting is telemetry's role in the race to save the endangered white-naped cranes of Asia. Worldwide damming of waterways for agriculture interferes with their breeding wetlands. Less than 10,000 remain, mostly in Japan, China, and the former USSR. With only 300 birds in captivity, an international breeding program's underway. A pair mates for life, lays 2 eggs a year and raises 1 chick. But take the eggs away and the cranes keep laying replacements. Successfully incubate these eggs and instead of 1 chick a year, you could raise 6 to 8 from each pair. But successful incubation is not so easy. Only half were hatching, despite every care. What was needed was more information on what happens in the nest. While this is close enough in colour and size to fool the would-be parents, this egg is never going to hatch. The outside eggshell is epoxy resin, and you can see 7 temperature sensors. The holes in the nose are also to keep track of the humidity. But inside, it's quite fascinating. Now, if I turn it over, you can see those 3 mercury switches there. Now, they're configured in a triangle to keep track of the position. It keeps track of how the parents turn the egg over. But most of these internal workings are for processing all that information and sending it out in bursts of VHF digital data every 3 minutes. All that nest-based information is synchronized with video images of what's happening at the time. The radio telemetric egg did its job.
Much to my surprise, we found that the microclimate around the egg of a crane is not one temperature, it's a thermal gradient. From the top of the egg to the bottom of the egg, there's a 10 centigrade temperature difference. And in our artificial incubators, we do not in any way replicate that thermal gradient.
Should this prove biologically significant, it will mean a redesign for future incubators. Meanwhile, the Bronx Zoo entertains the public, publicises the endangered, and harnesses all the technology has to offer to better understand our wild world.
About 60 billion photographs are taken every year, the majority of them on 35mm film. For tourists and amateur photographers, most of those photos will find their way into albums that might be opened once or twice a year. But the world's biggest film company is changing that tradition. Typically, we drop our exposed film into the local photo shop and return to collect our negatives and prints. Kodak have now added something to this process that will return to you not only prints, but a compact disc with your photographs on it.
To take advantage of the photo CD system, all you have to do is add to your order. The new process won't alter how you take your photographs or which brand or type of film you use. And no, you don't have to speak French. Most importantly, you won't need a special digital camera to start using photo CD. For photo CD to be a success, it was essential that the system worked for the normal home camera first, because there are literally millions of them. Initially, the process, jointly developed by Kodak and Philips, will be aimed at the amateur photographer who uses the local Photoshop. In an age where technology usually means that you have to throw away last year's purchase to make way for the new, PCD is surprisingly simple. The only equipment you need to buy is a player such as this one. The days of a cumbersome setup for the slideshow at home are gone.
Every disc can store up to 100 images. Now, to speed up the process of searching for the frame that you want, the disc cover comes with a numbered index. Another bonus that you don't get with slides is the ability to zoom in to a particular part of the frame. But for me, the most impressive feature of this system is the quality and the clarity of the picture.
Photo CD makes clever use of existing technologies, such as photo scanning and compact disc storage, combining them with new electrophotographic processes. The system comprises off-the-shelf computer technology teamed with the PCD film scanner and software. It requires just one operator and has a fully automatic focus and exposure operation. After the 35mm film is processed in the traditional manner, the images are loaded into the system and scanned. First, in a quick scan or preview mode, where some adjustments can be made, such as colour alteration and exposure correction. Once satisfied with any changes at low resolution, the operator commits the image to disk. With 3 6-second passes, the image is transferred at full photographic resolution to a gold-coated 120mm compact disc. If the new process had been dependent on a digital camera, only newly taken photographs would have been able to take advantage of photo CD. Because any existing film can be scanned to CD, old and archival pictures will also benefit. At the end of the process, the index card with thumbnail-sized versions of your pictures is printed and ready to slip into the CD case. Just as photo CD promises to revolutionise the amateur photo world, design companies and desktop publishing will also gain from the ability to process and manipulate images digitally. Industry giants like Fuji, Agfa and Apple Computer will be marketing products using PCD technology under license from Kodak, with what is generally accepted now as the new world standard. Photo finishers and mini labs are able to buy the complete imaging workstation for about $100,000. For the moment, all standard prints will still be made from film negatives.
At present, businesses that run workstations like this are the only ones who can print from their CDs. But very soon, customers too will have access to this technology.
The first release photo CD players read the photo discs as well as standard music CDs and CDI. But it's envisaged by Kodak that in future, users will be able to team up their personal computer with PCD to combine photos, graphics and music. As for longevity, accelerated degradation tests show that photo CD images will last at least as long as photographic prints. Of course, some will mourn the passing of the traditional photo album, but for most, the snaps of today will mark a true change in the way we store our memories. Now, if we could only teach people to stop acting when their picture gets taken. Coming up after the break, linking the car to the heart of a communication centre. And still to come, putting damaged human hearts under pressure.
Disney World, the Kennedy Space Centre, Universal Studios, the Epcot Centre. Orlando, Florida is a tourist town from city limit to city limit. More Americans head here for holidays than anywhere else in the country. And being the country's #1 tourist destination, it follows that a good percentage of the people on the roads at any moment haven't a clue where they are or where they're going. And that makes this an ideal testing ground for a car navigation system that can guide you across 16,000 kilometres and through 75,000 intersections just as easily as you'd find your way around your own hometown. It can also help you find a room for the night or select a tourist attraction, book a table at a restaurant, or even find your way to an old friend's house. If you still manage to get lost and can't quite remember how to use the system, there's a 24-hour help service available by phone. Now that's at the offices of the American Automobile Association, and that's where we're heading. So I need to enter my destination. It's a service. There it is, AAA offices in Florida. At Heathrow, that's right, and I'll ask it to plan a destination via the fastest route. Onboard navigation systems have been taking the long, slow road to fruition. But with this system, electronic navigation has finally come of age. It's simple to program, and following the turn-by-turn instructions is as easy as, well, getting lost in a strange city.
Drive straight through the intersection onto SR 436 Severin Boulevard. Next turn.
If that voice starts to nag you, turn it off and follow the map instead. As a first-time visitor to Orlando with no idea where AAA was in relation to anywhere, and with very little nose for direction, I was relying totally on that synthesised voice and the video map to get me there.
Bear right onto the ramp to east-west to west.
Okay, so the East-West Expressway. TravTech continually calculates the distance and time remaining to your destination. With a quick glance at the monitor from time to time, you can't go wrong.
Bear right onto the ramp to east-west to west.
And make a right.
Your car may be off the planned route. If so, press the OK new route button for a new route.
You're kidding. Bear right, not turn right. Time for some help. To be fair, this mistake really wasn't TravTech's fault. It was the cameraman's. He was blocking the monitor, and because I was still getting used to this, I needed a quick look at the map just to be sure where I was going. When I couldn't remember what I'd been told to do after making a wrong turn, the help desk was on hand to solve the problem.
Good afternoon, TravTech Help Desk. This is Loretta.
Hello, Loretta. I'm trying to find my way from the airport to the AAA offices. As it turned out, straying off course didn't present a problem. 436.
You're eastbound on Lake Underhill.
The computer redetermined my position.
Push OK.
And planned a new course to get me going. Okay. Thanks, Loretta. Bye-bye. TravTech uses a combination of magnetic compasses and wheel sensors to pinpoint the car's position. The computer system matches that road information with navigable maps stored in its database. So, as I turn the corner, the wheel sensors note that I've turned right, figure there must be a street there, and the microprocessors scan the database to find the name of that street. Hopefully they'll tell me I'm on the East-West Expressway.
I think 10 years out, it's probably not unlikely to assume that you'll have this available in a whole host of cars that are available on the road. I think by that time the price will come down to where it's affordable for the average American.
Throughout the journey, my car is constantly receiving information on updated traffic conditions from this control room. Freeway cameras, radio reports, road sensors that detect traffic volumes, police communications. They all filter back to this room where they're added to the database. The car and the control room are constantly talking through radio signals. The car advising its position and the control room keeping the vehicle informed of traffic problems. If there's a jam ahead, TravTech will think again and suggest a new direction I can take to avoid the congestion.
Traffic Management Center, this is Joe.
Hello, Joe. It's Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. I've been tracking you since you left the airport. I saw you make that wrong turn on the way down.
Today, Joe was keeping an eagle eye on me, but in the future he'll see thousands of cars moving across the city and through TravTech be able to direct traffic smoothly across town.
Traffic is congested.
We still have a ways ahead before onboard navigation systems become standard offering. The TravTech system is presently undergoing a 12-month trial.
Next turn in 1 2/10 miles.
I found it simple, clear, and not at all distracting.
Turn left onto Triboulet Drive.
And it got me exactly where I wanted to go. If it also proves capable of reducing congestion and keeping drivers cool under the collar,
Route guidance complete.
it'll be the one backseat driver you'll gladly welcome aboard.
You are in the vicinity of your destination.
How fast does an emerging seedling grow? At what rate does a stem of wheat pump nutrients from the soil? And what's the link between these questions and painting a wall? Let's start with the plants. To understand how they grow, we need to know how fluids, which is the water and nutrients, move around inside them. But a plant is a closed system. Any instrument we plug into it or fluid we inject is likely to kill it. It's the same problem medicine used to have with humans, until we discovered non-invasive ways to look inside the human body. Magnetic resonance imaging is one of the recent wonders of medical science. By placing a patient into a powerful magnetic field, the characteristic radio waves emitted by water molecules in the body can be resolved into detailed images. So this would seem to be the perfect system to unlock the watery mystery of plants. It's not as simple as taking a plant along to your local hospital. A standard MRI machine, while perfect for medical scanning, is too coarse to tell us much about a plant. Its resolution of about 1 millimetre would give us a picture of a stem, and that's all. To see the tiny vascular tubes inside a plant, we need 100 times more detail. Surprisingly, that doesn't mean building a bigger MRI machine. By miniaturising the receiver, we can see down to 10 microns, 1/100th of a millimetre. A castor bean shoot is being prepared by Professor Paul Callaghan and his team at Massey University for a 10-hour mission inside the magnetic field. Like a little astronaut, it will be plugged into its own life support system. Water, light and air are all provided. This experiment will look not only at the distribution of water, but also at the rate at which it flows through the plant. It's the flow rate that physiologists are most interested in. To understand how flow rate is calculated, we need to know a little bit more about how MRI works. As the molecules in the sample are squeezed by the magnetic field, their nuclei precess or change the angle of rotation. As they do, they emit a radio signal. These signals pinpoint the position of each molecule and together form a picture of the structure. What Professor Callaghan and his team are doing is electronically listening to the changes in these radio waves as the nuclei move. In other words, the way the nuclei phase or get out of step with each other over time. These phase differences can be plotted every 100th of a second, and this gives us a more accurate snapshot of a plant than we've ever had before. This is a standard microscope view of a cross-section of our castor bean. It shows us the physiology of the plant, the xylem that carries water up the bean, the phloem that takes nutrients from the leaves back down the stalk, but it doesn't really tell us what's happening inside the plant. The MRI view shows that there's a lot of water present, that's the greeny yellow through here, and that it's fairly evenly distributed. This tells us that the plant is moist and succulent. But when we add the velocity map to this, we can see that the water is flowing up the xylem at around 20 microns a second and is moving away down the phloem at around 10 microns a second. These are the sorts of figures that plant physiologists have been wanting to know but haven't been able to determine until now. Water flow is critical to the development of a plant. The next stages of these experiments will look at how it can be affected. Which strains of wheat are more efficient in poor conditions, for example? How much water does a cereal crop need to grow? Information that will find a place in the efforts to grow food worldwide. But what does MRI have to do with paint? Paints rely on polymers, long chains of molecules with particular properties. They slide across a surface easily, but are sticky when they stop. This characteristic is known as shear thinning, and it means paint is easy to brush on, but doesn't slide down the wall at the end of each brush stroke. While it's easy to demonstrate shear thinning, the molecular principle behind it is not well understood. MRI can look at the velocity of molecules in polymers as they are forced down a capillary tube. By seeing how the molecules behave on the boundary of the tube wall, it's hoped to finally explain the phenomenon of shear thinning. The food industry is interested in this principle too. Shear thinning is why some cheeses spread and others don't. Polymer butter that spreads straight from the freezer may not be far away. A lot of this work is pure research, but in 5 or 10 years' time, when we're growing food more efficiently, it will be because of this kind of molecular groundwork. The same research that will make paint flow even more freely off your brush.
Coming up next, putting a heart attack victim under pressure. And
bending the knees with virtual reality.
Divers, especially those who challenge great depths, are at risk of decompression sickness, the bends. Divers who are unable to maintain appropriate pressure as they rise to the surface cause nitrogen from their blood to form bubbles in their arteries. It's a condition that can kill, and it's treated like this, in a hyperbaric unit. Oxygen is given to a diver, who's then subjected to pressure 2 to 3 times that of normal. That eliminates those potentially fatal gas bubbles. But a remarkable new use for the hyperbaric unit has been discovered. If you're lucky, after a myocardial infarction, you'll end up here, in the coronary care ward. You will have been given a chemical to stop your blood clotting. But still, the doctors and the nurses will be puzzling over what to do with you. Should you have open surgery, a bypass graft, or angioplasty, or should you be given just medical treatment? After a heart attack, muscles in the heart walls often shut down, resulting in a weak or inefficient beat. In a way, the muscles rest or hibernate, so that bruised or swollen areas can recover. For the patient relying on the muscle for life, the resting can be fatal. In deciding what to do, the hyperbaric unit provides the answer. Is the heart hibernating, or is the heart so badly damaged it will never recover? Once the doctors have actually seen the resting heart resume its beat, they know it may well respond to treatment that restores its oxygen and its blood flow. It's the first time that the hibernating heart has been accurately visualized. Oxygen, pushed through the damaged tissues by the increased pressure created in the hyperbaric unit, fills the region with nourishing blood. It makes new blood vessels grow into the area, and it also stops edema or swelling that can prevent oxygenated blood flowing smoothly from the capillaries or small blood vessels.
You can actually see the muscle start moving again. Most of the other tests rely on indirect data to try and make presumptions about the viability or otherwise of heart muscle. On this occasion, by delivering extra oxygen to the heart muscle, we can actually see recovery of muscle, and that gives us great confidence that we'll be able to predict recovery of that same bit of muscle after the patient's had a bypass operation.
It's not just a bypass, using a leg vein or a chest artery to go past the coronary block that can bring the heart muscle back to full function. It might be an angioplasty, where the clot in the blocked artery is crushed, or it may be necessary to stay with medical treatment.
This is new, and it's really good to be involved in something where we're actually doing something novel which might benefit patients in the long term.
The hyperbaric unit has many uses when combined with other forms of therapy. Increasingly, it's being used to assist wounds and damaged tissue to heal better. If a wound is not healing, it simply may not be getting enough oxygen. There are so many diseases that can be helped by administering oxygen under pressure. Sure, it's early days, and patients must be cared for where the hyperbaric unit is installed, but the effects of treatment could make the dislocation worthwhile.
Simon's done it. Ian's had a go. And Chris has done it too. I figured it was my turn. But I'm in the middle of a major city. It's summer, and there isn't a mountain with snow on it for thousands of kilometres. Still, I'm going skiing. Virtually. This is NEC's prototype ski trainer. I'm plugged into a computer graphic simulation of a ski field. And once I've got the helmet on, I'm immersed in a world of virtual reality. It's a training aid. My helmet is being tracked inside an electromagnetic field, so as I tilt or turn my head, the outlook changes. My boots are standing on plates that twist and turn and allow me to ski my way down the slope. What I'm seeing is a 3D representation of a reasonably difficult ski field. It takes a bit of getting used to. Because it's a prototype, the 3D image is very simple. And so because I can't see them clearly, some of these bumps are taking me by surprise. My boots don't feel like they're quite attached to skis, but even so, when I shift my weight from one foot to the other, I turn just as I would on a real slope. But unlike reality, I haven't fallen over yet. The computer sets the topography. Then the boot plates adjust to simulate the terrain. Data on how I'm positioning the stocks and distributing my weight on the plates tells the computer where my balance is centred, and I turn and move accordingly. The plates move in 10 directions and can be set for snowplow turns or parallel turns. The computer is also checking how stressful I'm finding the virtual ski field on this virtual mountain. On my finger is a blood flow monitor. It's a simple way of finding out how I'm getting on. If I'm finding it too hard and I'm getting tense, the surface blood vessels will narrow and the computer will adjust the program to drop the level of difficulty. But if I'm finding it very relaxing and therefore easy, the blood vessels will open and I'll find myself on a much more difficult course.
This kind of system isn't limited just to sports training. The same technology could be used in rehabilitation, for example, teaching people to walk after accidents, or as physical therapy for the handicapped. And it certainly is a warmer and drier alternative to a day on the slopes.
Perhaps the best thing about virtual skiing is that at the end of the day, you've only got virtual injuries. But let's hope the après ski is a little more real. That's all we have time for on this edition of Beyond 2000. Next week, we're on the beach looking at hard-working tourists taking a unique and useful diving holiday.
Monday to Friday, twice a day, they dive for science.
And microscopic bomb disposal experts, dealing with the leftovers of the Cold War.
Digesting the Cold War, the next time we go Beyond 2000. I'll see you then.